What's up, guys? It's me, Justin or PBJ, back with another video. Hopefully you guys are doing great. Today, you know what, I always say this, but you know what we're doing when we're sitting down in the seat? Thing behind us, you know, same place for probably 2 years now. We're looking at the worst of YouTube again, where we like to look at some terrible stuff. Today's topic is extra credits. Extra credits. You've probably heard of extra credits before. You may have seen one of there's a couple of videos, or there's a couple of series of videos that you may have seen. So some of you may have just seen extra credit videos from like your history teacher or whatever. They used to be like a gaming channel, but not like a gameplay channel, but it was more like a critical thinking gaming. It was kind of like game theory, but it wasn't really about like lore. It was more about like mechanics and stuff like that. Or not before. They switched over to like a history channel at one point, and they've basically been pumping out content. Recently, however, they have been making several more gaming videos. But you know what? Maybe they shouldn't. Some of these videos are extremely triggering. I think it was a year or two ago. You may have heard of the Stop Normalizing Nazis video made by Extra Credits. And if you don't know, you haven't seen that video somehow, living under a rock, I guess. Essentially, you could tell by that title alone that it's pretty much made to be controversial. But essentially in that video, what happened is they were playing World War II shooters. Essentially, it desensitizes you from Nazi. I probably am gonna have to censor some of those. YouTube's gonna pick that up and think I'm a Nazi. But anyways, essentially they're like Nazis, right? They're like saying if you play a World War II game and you get picked into a Nazi, that makes you a Nazi. Even though they weren't saying that. They were kind of saying that, but not really. A new video titled "Evil Races Are Bad Game Design, Bioessentialism and World Building."
If you paid attention to the games discourse on the internet during 2019 and 2020, you might have noticed a reoccurring argument about some species from fantasy media, specifically orcs. Now, not to worry, this episode isn't going to be just another member of the chorus talking about how if all orcs in a game are blindly evil, that it's racist. Instead, we want to discuss how that particular choice is simply bad game design.
So essentially, they're starting off by saying hey, there's a lot of orcs in video games. And granted, that is true. Orcs are a very common race in video games. The fact that already, I can already tell that this is going to be extremely disgusting. Because if you're trying to apply a physical human being, the characteristics or where they come from, their race, a human race, to a video game, and applying that to a fictional video game with fictional characters, with fictional events, fictional everything, applying that makes absolutely no sense. It's entirely fictional. There's no point to apply race to any sort of media. It doesn't matter because it's not real. It's a video, it's a game, it's a book, it's a movie. It's not real. It's not real. Some people can't understand that though. It's not real. The medium is not there is no implementation of racial intolerance or racial whatever into media. There's nothing there. Anybody that tries to apply that is just being idiotic. They're being stupid. They're trying to make an argument that essentially doesn't exist. And that's the issue here. The fact that they went out and basically said racial intolerance in video games is bad game design, regardless if they're saying that that they're saying we're not a part of the chorus here. We're not saying orcs are racist, right? That's they're saying that they're not saying that, but at the same time, with the title of Evil Races and Bad Game Design, and basically saying the implementation of racial intolerance in video games is bad game design, leads me to believe, and probably some of you, to the conclusion that racial intolerance is going to be in this video, that race is going to be involved. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's not. When people are making games or creating creative outlook or whatever, when they're making media like that, they're not intentionally throwing in racial comments. They're not intentionally throwing in any political bias or anything like that. They're not intentionally doing that. And you know that they're not doing that unless if they specifically say, hey, we're making a political statement here. Because in some games like Valheim, that has orcs in it, and they're the bad guys technically. And the fact is, they're saying they're the bad guys, and it's like, you have to understand something. That when people are making things like these, they're not doing it for racial intolerance. They're making it because it's their job. It's because they want to do that. Do you think that the creator of Valheim was like, you know, I really have a problem with green people in this world, so I'm going to make them the bad guys in this game? Do you think that the creator did that? Do you think that the creators did that? I don't think they did.
Conversation on Orcs points out that characterizing a whole species in your game as ugly, warlike, and malevolent might be harmful to real-world groups regularly mischaracterized as ugly, warlike, and malevolent. However, this video isn't that. Though if you want more on that discussion, Mendez breaks it down wonderfully over on his website, and we'll have a link to that in the description. But here, we're going to talk about something related. Why characterizing a group like this in your game can be lazy at best, and at worst, actively harmful to the world you're creating. When designing a game's world and populating it with fictional species, a designer might be tempted to differentiate them from one another by certain inalienable qualities, like their moral alignment.
Okay, which is very true. Which is very true. 100% agreed. Creators will try to diversify their games because guess what? You can't just have the same thing. You can't have the same enemy over and over again. Think back to Mario, dude. Like, imagine if the only enemy in Mario was a Goomba. You know how boring that would get? Like, imagine all the enemies, Bowser included, was just a single Goomba. You're basically turning diverse characters into essentially blank slates. You're turning them into colorless figures. You're turning them into colorless figures. There's no correlation, there's no nothing. There's no, like what they're saying, there's no moral alignment. But the fact that some people take that as racial intolerance by diversifying fictional enemies in video games it's crazy.
Violent versus peaceful, law versus chaos, good versus evil, and the like. It's a common trope in speculative fiction, but especially in the context of a game, painting an entire species with the same moral brush actually weakens the entire thing. This idea that a certain subgroup, like race, nationality, or sex, has inalienable traits is called biological essentialism or simply bioessentialism. And it's a valid way to talk about qualities like how many legs an animal has or whether it can fly.
So what they just said was that having the diverse enemies, such as an orc, and painting them with the evil, with the bad, by their moral alignment, is saying that essentially in that context, in the game's context, is saying a message that called biological essentialism, which is the topic of the video, essentially is what they're saying is that the nationality, because orcs in video games have nationality, their sex, gender, whatever, and their race is creating a issue within the game because it affects real life events. No, it doesn't. If I'm playing a game of Call of Duty Cold War and I'm playing it or whatever, and it's the battle of freaking, I don't know, there's a battle in Afghanistan, and you know, the Spetsnaz win. Like, I'm playing on the Spetsnaz team and the Spetsnaz win. That has no real life effect. It has none. There's nothing there. It has no real life effect because it's just a game. Putting, like, the amount of explaining I have to do because how little there is in this video is amazing. It's ginormous because the amount of, like, it's crazy. It's shocking how much stupidity is coming out of this guy's mouth. And obviously, I don't know if this guy is just saying this because it's his job, because it was written by someone else. There's a whole different thing here.
But all too often, this concept gets misused in untrue statements, like pit bulls are a violent breed, men are more logical than women, or Asians are better at math. Now, chances are, if a game is set in the real world, that the designers are avoiding these tropes because they aren't real, as multiple fields of societal and hard science can readily prove to you. But speculative fiction offers us an opportunity to reify or make real various things which don't exist, or to exaggerate things which do.
Okay, yeah. So essentially, it means you're stereotyping someone based off of their thing. And they're saying, like, pit bulls are a violent breed. Men are logistically smarter than women. And while, you know, those are bold statements, are they true? Yeah, some of them are true. Like, there are violent breeds of dogs. They're biologically, the bio and bioessentialism, biologically designed to kill. They're designed like that. They were designed by, they evolved like that. That's the whole point. Like German Shepherds, they have a killer instinct. They have a killer instinct. Lions, killer instinct. Do you think that there's gonna be one lion just out? No, it doesn't matter. Do you think that there's gonna be one lion that doesn't kill, that doesn't want to kill and wants to be a peacemaker? Do you think that's gonna happen? Do you think that has happened? No, it hasn't, because biologically speaking, that can't be possible. They're trying to classify, they're trying to basically say that orcs born into the orc race in video games makes them inherently bad. But again, this is a video game we're talking about. This isn't real life biological evolution. This is nothing like that. It's a video game. Okay, because it's fiction. Because it's fiction. Because it's fiction. Are there games that are set in the real world that have orcs? Sure. Does that make it real? Does that make it 100% accurate to human nature? No, because there aren't orcs. It's fiction. It's fiction. The creator can throw in whatever diverse enemy culture they want to because it's not real. It's not real. It's not real. None of, like, it doesn't have any real world effect. It's not real. Has not happened, will not happen, cannot happen.
Now, bioessentialism is a tempting idea in fantasy for some of the same reasons as it is in the real world. Because to our human minds, broad generalizations are comforting. They reduce the world to simple cut and dry categories. All orcs bad, all elves good, root for these folks, not for these folks. But just like in the real world, bioessentialism can present problems in fiction as well, specifically a moral one. The idea that a sapient species can inherently tend towards good or evil acts, or lawful or chaotic ones, and that moral essentialism actually undercuts the greatest strength games can bring to storytelling: the player's own power to make meaningful, interesting choices and judgments for their characters, including moral ones. So if a game's creative choices apply a moral valuation to every member of an entire species before the players even meet them, well, now that's just taking that power away from the players.
There is a lot of hypocrisy going on. Because what this guy just said completely backstabs his statement about the Nazi video. It basically makes that video obsolete. So essentially, what he's saying is that this side is bad, this side is good, that's just how it is. But in the Nazi video, they're saying, hey, that's not true. They're saying that you can't stereotype people, you can't stereotype Nazis, you can't stereotype British soldiers, you can't stereotype them because not all of them are good, not all of them are white, not all of them are black, not all of them are Caucasian. The fact that both of these things conflict with each other, and the logical, like, if you stop to think about this for more than 5 seconds, you realize how stupid this sounds. Because some people like this guy just can't think. Because clearly what happened 2 years ago, new information has come to light that has led him to this conclusion. That regardless of where you're born, regardless of what side you're on, regardless if you don't even exist at all, a video game, a fictional video game, a fictional book, a fictional movie, that doesn't matter. Because guess what? Everybody's unique. We don't need to be fit into cookie cutters. We're all unique here.
And in turn, if a group of orcs, for instance, doesn't even have a choice about their actions, are they actually evil? Because look, if a person, say, destroys a house, we call that evil because they chose to do so. But if a tornado destroys a house, well, I mean, is wind evil? No. Therefore, if a game's world...
Do you hear what this guy just said? He is saying that a group of orcs in a video game, a sentient group of orcs in a video game, get the choice of being whether good or evil is taken away from them. It's taken away from them in favor of the player. How stupid do you have to be? Like, how disconnected from reality do you have to be to realize the orcs don't get to choose? They're fictional. They're AI programming. They're not real people. They're not real. Like, does this guy think? And this is such on a surface level, like, decision level. This is something like a 5-year-old would say that doesn't understand how a video game works. He's essentially, a 5-year-old wrote this. Because it's so disconnected from reality. The fact that this person believes that the AI has that the AI in a game has had the ability to choose whether they were good or evil, but was snatched away from them. It was kidnapped. It was taken from them by the game developers, by the players.
Building chooses to program every member of a species to destroy. Aren't they more like the tornado? Now, if the player's characters are able to make moral choices, but an entire class of NPCs is inherently evil regardless of their choice, then the game is either telling the player that moral choices don't matter, or it's simply driving a wedge between the player's morality and the morality that applies to the rest of the world, blocking the player from further becoming a part of it. For instance, in Warhammer 40k, this inconsistency is central to the Imperium of Man's villainous creed. Individuals' human choices make them good or evil, whereas aliens are created evil.
So essentially what he's saying is that the ethical approach of a video game, because he's basically, what he's doing here is he's using big boy words and he's extending out his sentences to make them sound smart. But if you really say it out in a layman's term, you sound okay. So essentially what he's saying here is that the ethics in a video game, if there are no ethics, right? So no no ethics, like ethic. So you're saying a game that with no ethical value, aka pretty much any normal game, like, okay, let's use Valheim again. So essentially what it's saying is that the ethical approach of that, if there is none, because guess what, there is not a ethical approach to anything. He's saying that the morals of that ethical approach still is applied to something that does not have that. And the issue with that is that sometimes a game is made to, like Valheim, okay? If you never played Valheim before, there's basically goblins, orcs, whatever you want to call them. And they're spawned randomly throughout the map, right? So let's say that there is a moral, ethical approach to it. But spoiler alert, there is not. There is not an ethical approach to this. There's not a moral approach. But let's just say there is. Let's say as a player, I get to decide whether I want to be helpful or if I want to destroy them. That's my choice. That is the player's choice. This is not the game designer's fault. This is your decision. You chose this. You chose this. You chose to buy the game. It is you, the player, not the game designer. So let's say that there are no morals or ethics, because there aren't. Does that change the context of the game? No. Does it implement a message in today's society that's saying, let's kill all? Does it say that we should kill all Caucasians because, hey, they're just all born evil? Does it say that? No, it doesn't. It does not say that. It's not saying that. It's not saying kill all the orcs because they're bad. They're not saying that. It's a game. You are told that the orcs, regardless of their morals, because clearly an NPC in a game has morals, that the fact that they have morals to kill, biologically to kill, gives you the excuse to go and kill them. Now, does that sound reasonable to you? Does that sound reasonable to you? Do you think that I was the target of hate? Again, this is all an example. I'm not saying we should do this. But if I'm the target of hate of a bunch of whites, does that mean I should go out and kill all whites because one person went up to me and was not morally being correct? Does that mean I should go out and kill? Does that mean we should kill all whites? No, that's not what it, no. Because it's not, like, when you think like that, like, how do you get to that conclusion? How do you draw such a major conclusion that saying what happens in a game is comparative to real life? And that the moral choice in a game morally puts you in a standstill between everybody dies or everybody lives. How do you get to that conclusion?
Have chosen Team Evil, the game wouldn't exactly be communicating that difference very well. A quick fix here would be to show some diversity in the evil team's hiring practices. For instance, with evil humans and elves as well as orcs.
Oh my gosh. This idiot, this absolutely freaking idiot, is saying that games that have a orc race need to diversify how they hire their orcs. Because saying that the orcs are born to kill is racist. So what they're saying, this idiot, who wrote this? Genuinely, who wrote this? Well, that's pretty much the end of the video. That's pretty much all I feel comfortable talking about. This video may be a little controversial here because I was getting real, and all I said in this video. The conclusion here, Extra Credits is dumb. Never trust them. They've made like 4 or 5 like terrible videos like these. Probably stop watching them. Dislike the video. It's already at 29,000 dislikes to 9,000 likes. So to any of you idiots that liked it, I don't know what to say. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is Justin or PBJ, and as always, have a nice day. Peace.